Welcome to our free training. Forget the MVP, think MVO. Let's jump right into this. So one of the frustrations of my client work when I was working as a consultant was that every sales call sort of followed the same pattern. So, somebody comes along with some idea they're super excited about. They're convinced it's going to be their next big thing. So they've already decided to, run before they can walk, committing, 100K to developing a custom built app, maybe 3 to 6 months just to get a basic proof of concept with no team, no strategy, and really nothing in place, even if the concept does work out. Now, in this free training, we're going to teach you how to walk before you run and validate your product ideas extremely quickly and with minimal effort, and avoiding many of the pitfalls of the MVP. And also, we're going to be doing that in a way that fits in within a vision and strategic framework that really many companies miss out when we talk about an MVP or proof of concept. Now, whether you're starting a new product or improving an existing one, this is an essential skill for any aspiring product leader. And to do so, we need to understand this one key concept and how to apply it, the minimal viable offer. Now, in this free training, specifically what we're going to cover, first 2 points really around the 3 types of risk in product management. We're going to delve into focusing on value risk and specific tools we can use to mitigate that. Secondly, the pitfalls of the MVP, feasibility risk, and why I actually ban the use of the word in our Product MBA training program. And finally, how to define your MVO in practice, how to really validate not only just maybe a small idea, but validate a whole product vision and product strategy extremely quickly. But before we jump into that, just a little bit of info on me to give you some context. So I'm Henry Latham. Since I started my first business back in 2012, I've been obsessed with understanding why some products succeed and why some others fail. And really over the last 8 years, I've worked as a founder and product consultant, helping make ideas happen as well as publishing my first book, Why Your Startup is Failing, last year. Now what I do is create value as the founder of the Product MBA, a 6-week hands-on training program designed to fast-track PMs and POs to head of product with tools and tactics like this. And now in the program, we've used the concept of the MVO to deliver real tangible results. And these testimonials is not to pitch the program to you, but to simply show that it works. We've had 4 students that actually generate revenue within 4 to 5 weeks of the program, and a majority who've been able to rapidly validate interest with their product offering before committing to the sort of next step with that. And at the heart of that success lies the MVO, which we're going to come on to later. So it's not just, another MV something and something novel. This does really work. When managing product, we need to remember that our role is not to reinvent the wheel. It is instead to mitigate risk. And this is really what lies at the heart of great product management. As Marty Kagan, the godfather of product management, states, quote, "First, you need to discover whether there are real users out there that want this product. Second, you need to discover a product solution to this problem that is usable, useful, and feasible." Now, in many cases, people skip the first step. And we're going to come on to that later when I talk about the pitfalls of the MVP. Now, specifically, that means 3 kinds of risk. So 1, value risk. Will our target customer buy it? Will they even choose to use it? Will they believe the promise that we're making to them? 2, feasibility risk. Can we deliver on our promise? Do we have the time and skills? If we're building a digital or complex physical product, do our engineers have the time, skills, technology? Do we have the capital to make that happen, to bring in the right people? And finally, usability risk. Is it too complex and confusing to get to the core value? Note that stakeholder value risk is not part of this equation. It is not effective product management to try to deliver value to our stakeholder in the form of meeting expectations, delivering features on time, building what they might want quickly, trying to please a pushy CEO, etc. This is purely a distraction, a necessary evil in many jobs that must be navigated so that we can focus on what really matters, and that is delivering value for the customer and delivering value for the business. Now, in this free training, we're going to focus on the 2 major risks, that value and feasibility. So let's jump in and look at value risk to start. Now, the biggest mistake new businesses and new product teams make is failing to build something that delivers enough value to a niche so that the niche is willing to use and ultimately pay for that product. It's even estimated that 42% of companies fail because they focus on building an exciting solution that does not solve an acute problem or any problem at all, according to one study of 101 startup post-mortems conducted by CB Insights. And now that is not just true of new companies and new products. Existing products that fail have already committed to a direction for 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years at times, that have failed to understand the problem and focus on a problem. Now, avoiding falling victim to the trap of building a product nobody wants is surprisingly straightforward if we understand the right practical frameworks to use to mitigate this risk. And the part that most people will forget to do or simply not bother to do is actually applying this framework to our product ideas in practice, as it's easy and it's more fun, it's more exciting to jump straight to building a solution. Now, one tool that we do use is the Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas. Now, in almost every MBA program, it is taught, this process is taught to ensure that we build something a specific audience wants. So we use this canvas, right, this Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas to sort of evaluate our offer and position it in the market. Now, Blue Ocean is essentially a framework we use to strategically differentiate ourselves from the competition, i.e. to be very different from the other products that service our niche, whilst also staying relevant for our niche. Why is it called Blue Ocean? Well, because what we're attempting to do with any product is avoid getting caught up in the red ocean of sort of intense competition where all the sharks are competing against each other for scraps of food, right, in the same confined space. So rather than being stuck in a race to the bottom with prices pushed down, a constant need to reduce costs, constant battle to match, the feature set that our competition have, we aim to find a blue ocean where there's no competition, where we're really free to determine our own pricing, solution, even to find a whole new market. Now, the Blue Ocean strategy is helpful. It helps us achieve two things, but it has its limitations. It helps us achieve two things. So one, most importantly, to pause and quickly, but effectively critique where there are opportunities in the market to differentiate ourselves. Two, it helps us convince external stakeholders, maybe your boss or potential investors or even co-founders, that the product vision you have makes good business sense. And here's how we use it. Right? So one, we research our competition, identify maybe 5 or 6 strong competitors are currently serving our niche. I've done 2 examples here for the Product MBA. Right? We have Product School in blue and Scrum certifications. What we then do is we want to plot 5 to 8 competing factors on the x-axis. These could be technical features such as an easy payment process, or better, really what we aim for is points of value, such as great customer service, compelling offer, something that is really valuable and close to heart for these people. So here we have things like within the sort of product management training space, high-level network, stakeholder management, effective leadership skills as examples. And then what we simply do is roughly plot where we think we score versus our competition on that. So for example, let's look at Scrum certification. They're great at Scrum/Agile delivery, capital A, Agile delivery methodologies, right? As is Product School. They're great at that. We put ourselves down here. A note on this framework. So your competition is not always who you think they are, but who your customers think they are. So here we're less interested in listing well-known competitors. It's more important to identify how customers deal with their problems today. So what are the existing alternatives? So for example, say we're launching a new project management tool. We may list obvious ones like Jira or Trello, but we should also list Google Sheets, Excel, which teams sort of hack together to use. Or even meetings would work. In our case, maybe that means books, right? Udemy courses, simply not taking action as well. And why is that the case? And here's the Blue Ocean strategy we put together for the Product MBA itself. So if you look at the left, we don't even try to compete on many of these factors, like Scrum, for example. There are programs that are better than us at that, and we're fine with that. We say, look, that's the red ocean over there that we're going to stay away from. If you look at the middle, there's some things where there's crossover. So building a network, business skills. That's great on programs like products. We believe we're good at it as well. Where we want to use the blue ocean, and this is a really important point when we put this into practice, is where we obsess over this area on the right where there's a lot of space. Things like effective leadership skills, customer delivery in theory and actually in practice, product strategy, actually experiencing the full product lifecycle and taking something from 0 to 1. And you might notice on here, and one of my students asked recently, where's pricing? Like, how do we determine pricing? Well, when we conceive of our product, our goal, as I said, is to obsess over creating a blue ocean. So we could include, pricing in here and use that as a point of differentiation. But actually, if we carve out our own space, it's not necessary because, firstly, we're not competing directly with others. And it can be a distraction, can really drag our business and focus our attention elsewhere that may not make sense for us. So we go for hyper differentiation with this framework to help us, again, coming back to the start, really deliver and audit, ask ourselves the question, like, are we sure that we're delivering value? Because instead, if we started to try and be the best at project management, other areas of our business would suffer. Our value proposition would get clouded. So we just stay focused, and this is true of any product. Stay focused, stay incredibly clear and incredibly specific with your message, with your offer, and ultimately with the value you deliver. You want to resonate so strongly with your niche's wants and desires, they can't resist clicking through to that offer. That every email you're sending seems to speak to them directly, and that when you deliver the core value, that core value really knocks it out the park and really satisfies their unique, specific needs. Finally, on Blue Ocean, we need to be very careful about what kind of different we aim for. This is when we're thinking a bit more strategically. It's very common and actually a very dangerous error that many teams make, that in an attempt to raise investment purely out of excitement for the idea, they sort of pitch something exciting and novel rather than focus on being truly innovative. This is Peter Thiel, founder of PayPal Notes, and now of Palantir. Ask yourself, is this intersection valuable? We could pitch a film, for example. This is Thiel's example. You could pitch a film and you go, well, it's got sharks in, and it's got zombies, and it's got hackers. So it's this like really cool, different film, and people are going to love it. But ultimately, it's still just a film, and it's not very helpful, right? That's not a valuable point of differentiation. In business, we could look at something novel, like, why don't we do a sort of training tool, but with AI? But if the experience is simply worse than just a training program with real people, then our intersection is not valuable, and the innovative technology we use is ultimately irrelevant. It's just a sort of overly complex app that nobody uses. Now, Blue Ocean is a great framework in evaluating ideas. It's one that we use, but it does have a huge limitation, and we only use it at a very specific time. And it's a limitation that's completely skipped over by many MBA programs, which is how do we actually come up with a nuanced, differentiated idea in the first place? Because good ideas do not simply come from staring at an empty graph and trying to fill that in. Right? That's really the hard part. And that's what we'll cover when we come on to the MVO in the second part of this free training. Let's now look at our second sort of major risk when we're thinking about product. So feasibility risk. Once we've understood where we want to position ourselves to deliver value to our customer and differentiate our business, we need to look at the feasibility of how we can deliver that value in practice. What can we actually build for our niche? It's a really important difference of the approach that I believe in. So let me just outline why we suggest looking at risk in this order and with this specific approach. So conventionally, companies would try to understand a market in theory, identify some clever ways of differentiating themselves, raise investment by pointing to the opportunity their solution presented, and then just jump straight into building a usually digital MVP, right, minimal viable product. However, there are 4 serious risks and pitfalls with this approach. So in theory, the minimal viable product is defined according to the lean startup author Eric Ries, and this is where you can compare your definition from the start of our training. Quote, that version of a new product which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learnings about customers with the least effort. Now, because of many teams' misguided sort of understanding of what a product is, thinking really about features over the whole customer experience, we tend to see the following problems. So one, that the MVP is rarely minimal, usually dragging on for months from our initial estimation, maybe a week or two, in order to build out these sort of full technical features. And this makes it harder and harder. So not only does it take a lot of time, but it makes it harder and harder to pivot away from the MVP if it turns out to not resonate with users, which statistically it won't. Because when we go to market, we're going to start having pressure of delivering quick results because of the delay, because of the long development cycles. So the minimal of the MVP is misused. Furthermore, the minimal of the MVP is misused by many companies to sometimes justify an MVP taking months or years to build rather than starting with a more simple solution, because we think about has to be digital. For example, we want to build an MVP or digital custom. Say we want to build an MVP of an AI tool. It's going to take years. You need a massive data. So in many cases, teams are thinking about what's the minimal version of the full solution rather than a minimal solution to solve the problem. So the thinking's wrong, and it tends to really stretch out this timeline. Second, MVP is rarely viable. So usually it becomes simply a poorly executed version of a more complex digital solution we wanted to build in future. Again, maybe that, I use the example constantly, but I do think AI has a place. But, that, let's say, cool AI, leadership or mentorship tool, if it's just sort of generic and robotic and it doesn't deliver whatsoever, deliver value in practice, then it's not a good idea to start with. Or maybe if the team is not technically capable, the MVP may just become a mess, and we end up with something that just doesn't really solve anything for everyone, but with teams committing in error to what they hope would become a viable version of their solution. So it's a fine line there with viability. 3, MVPs are generally perceived as necessarily custom-built digital products. As I've said, we forget again that it's really about actually scrappy, rapid validation of a hypothesis. And finally, sorry, my dog was barking in the background. And finally, an MVP your customers seem to derive value from is not necessarily one we can generate revenue from. This is really important if you're bootstrap or early stage startup. Look at many popular but free apps that have found to their downfall only after they've maybe committed all their resources to a direction. Actually, it's quite hard to generate revenue. And in fact, the word MVP has become so misused that many product experts, people with a lot more gravitas than myself, simply refuse to use the term. So Melissa Perry, author of Escaping the Build Trap, possibly the most popular book on product management, refers to it as a prototype. Hacking Growth author and godfather of growth hacking, Sean Ellis, refers to it as a minimal viable test. We simply refer to it as experiments to emphasize the uncertainty of what we're doing. And also we use the MVO concept as well, which I'll come on to next. And jumping in to just build out some initial features with high quality scalable code, effective analytics tracking, quality user experience, etc. These kinds of things may be easy for, let's say, Eric Ries leading a very development-led team when he came up with this concept in IMVU. But for many people, it's really hard to deliver. So again, we need to really think what is feasible, what is realistic with our skills, with our resources, with our timeline. And as I said, to mitigate feasibility risk, we have to be realistic and pragmatic to ensure that the product is able to, 1, deliver a lot of value to the customer and to the business in the form of revenue, and 2, that we're confident but realistic we can actually deliver that product to a necessary high standard as quickly as possible. Right, and we want to really avoid coding anything at all costs, even if we come from a good technical background, because of the traps that we've basically covered here. And that may mean at times actually you're going to be hacking together a solution from tools like Zapier and MailChimp to start, rather than building a custom database, front-end application, etc. And interesting, I always think of this perspective, it may be an uncomfortable realization for many of you, and it has been in the past, because it sort of goes against this main narrative we see in the startup world, particularly that we need to start and build something that's super complex with huge impact right now, immediately, this year. But to actually make ideas happen in practice, to actually deliver the value to those we're looking to serve, we must simply focus on offering something people want and that we can actually deliver on. Now, finally, we have usability risk. And as we attempt to validate our offer, which I'll come on to next, part of the MVO approach is to avoid even needing to think about this, to keep the offer so simple, the MVO so simple that we don't need to address usability at this stage, that we're not in any way allowing anybody to get lost or stuck on that. So to recap, before we go to the MVO, one, our job as a product leader is to mitigate risk. We can try to mitigate value risk with frameworks like the Blue Ocean strategy and strong ideation process, which I'll talk about at the end of the training. And we can address feasibility risk with the MVO rather than getting stuck in some of these traps of the MVP concept. But both these approaches have serious limitations, so Blue Ocean and MVP. So, in a highly competitive world, we must come up with a highly nuanced solution. And as we said, such solutions do not come from sitting down and filling in just a theoretical framework. Blue Ocean helps us audit an idea, but really the idea is going to come from gaining and evolving a deep understanding of a specific niche, of a specific target customer. Only then do we go, okay, where do we fit in the market? Are we actually looking at a unique value proposition? Secondly, an MVP we avoid it because it already hints at this concrete solution. There's this sort of concrete product idea there rather than on the very high level of like, what do people really want? What is this sort of value statement or offer that we are making that our niche desires before we even move a step beyond that? And that's where the MVO comes in. So what I'd like you to do now is just ask yourself this question, and this is what lies at the heart of the MVO. So think about your current customers. Maybe think about, if you're thinking of starting a business, who is the audience you would serve? And what is the thing that you could offer that would deliver a huge amount of value to that audience? What piece of value is it? What's the transformation? What's something that would deliver that result, that dream outcome for them that they're really desperately looking for? Right, so just have a think about that. Feel free to post that in the chat as well. Don't worry about questions of acquisition or cost or revenue or competition. That's really what the MVO is. Right, this is what it is at its core. What any product is at its core is a core value proposition in a succinct sentence that we can then take to the real world and validate with our target audience. That's what the MVO is. It's what lies at the core of any effective product. And that's the thing we really need to worry about. So any questions before we quickly cover the second stage of the MVO? We've got about 10 more minutes with the presentation, by the way. Any questions before I carry on? No, all good? Okay, excellent. Go back to screen sharing. Excellent. So specifically when it comes to the MVO, we're using the following framework. Right? If you take a screenshot of this, write it down. This is the most important part of product, in my opinion. We follow this framework whenever we're talking about an MVO. So once we've come up with an idea, which I cover in another training, I'm going to link at the end of this. So just sort of come up with an idea. We've spoken to a couple of customers. We should have a better understanding of what they really want. So we use this format to clearly outline our MVO, right? Really what we're doing with our product on a high level. So one, we clearly call out who you're targeting with our niche, right? So we help X, maybe frustrated junior sales reps based in New York. We then promise them their desired situation, desired outcome. So what is it? Career development, happiness, status, wealth, etc. Usually some sort of manifestation of those things. And then finally, we add our offer just on a high level. We don't need detail here because people will be curious if you get the desired outcome and you get the offer right. Maybe it's with 2 minutes a day using our app or weekly coaching sessions, for example. Here's a couple of examples of how we use it and then how other companies use it. So, ours is, for example, we fast track PM's POs, so our niche, desired outcome, head of product, and what that represents, sort of autonomy, purpose, increase of salary, status, these kinds of things. And then just a simple offer. So it could just be, hands-on 6-week training program. Maybe it's about hands-on 6-week training, hands-on program, building a product from scratch, right? Because we know from our ideation, from our research, that people are looking from our niche on something being hands-on, so practical, hands-on, actionable, and experience the full product life cycle, which is why we include this sort of product from scratch below it. Or let's look at Superhumans, a highly successful email app. They help busy business leaders save time, right? It's the desired outcome with a lightning fast email app. Right? So the offer is these people spend a lot of time in email. They want a lightning fast solution to save them time. Now, the MVO itself doesn't help you come up with a great offer. The great offer comes from a lot of discovery calls, a lot of conversations with your niche, and in the build up to crafting your MVO. And as I said, there's a whole nother talk that I've done on ideation that I'll be sending out tomorrow to sort of help you build up that learning. But once we've done the research, once we've sort of spoken to our niche and we've have a good idea of what they really want, what the acute problem is, we fill in this MVO format so with something that we believe will really resonate with our audience. And then the next step, and this is where we replace the MVP process, the next step, the process of validating our core hypothesis about, what does our product really do, is surprisingly simple. And the outcome we're looking for is to simply see that people from our niche are willing to engage with our offer. And that's measured by the percentage of people we contact who complete a simple survey. It's as simple as that. Is there interaction here? Are we attracting people? Are they taking the next step? If so, it suggests we're onto something that we can start building out further. And the steps to that are really simple. So step one is simply creating a landing page with that MVO statement on there. We use Typeform, right? Typeform has a welcome page. Here's one from a real student, Dan, on the right, and our template on the left. And I'll send these out in the replay tomorrow as well. Simple statement. Right? If you get the offer statement right, you don't need a clever landing page. You don't need all this extra information. So we simply get that page up. Now, step two is depending on where our niche gathers, we want to reach out to them. Just 50 people from our niche. Maybe it's a profession, so we go to LinkedIn. So we go to our profile, add our MVO statement as our headline, and simply reach out to them with a soft connect. Just say, hey, you popped up in my suggested connections, would be great to connect. Once they accept, you can follow up with the message. Or maybe it's about a niche based around a shared interest, like Weight Watchers 35 and under support group. So you find that relevant Facebook group, you start adding people from that group. And once you've identified where your niche hangs out, you're simply going to reach out to 50 people from your niche. You're not spamming them. You're not annoying them. You are simply trying to have a conversation with them. Usually if they're having an acute problem, they are more than happy to speak to you. Right? They're more than happy to have someone simply listen to them about that problem and that frustration. Now, outreach is really, really simple. And again, I'll send this out in the email tomorrow. We just have a simple message stating what we offer and a clear call to action. So, hi, John, I'm working on a new product to help niche, so people like John, achieve desired outcome, what that dream state is with our offer. Simple one sentence. Would you be interested in joining our exclusive waitings to test the product for free? If you're just starting out, would you be interested in having a chat so I can understand your frustrations or your problems more? Simple as that. You can send them then straight to the URL, so straight to your Typeform where you have your MVO statement there as well. And on the Typeform itself, we can simply add some survey questions to gather more data from our niche, on the problem space, how acute the problem space is, maybe what solutions they've tried before. But actually it's not essential. We just want to get them through that, over that hurdle of coming to this landing page, clicking start, even visiting the website itself to show that there's something interesting, something intriguing at a minimum there for them. And those questions I'll send out in the email tomorrow with the Typeform. And all we're looking for is to see that of 50 people we contacted, how many actually engage with us? How many then hit our landing page? How many of them actually click start and engage with our landing page in our survey? If of the 50 we get 5 that click start, then as a rule of thumb, it suggests that we have something that resonates with our niche. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother visiting the page in the first place, let alone putting the effort in to engage with a random survey. This can vary. Some people are going to get 0. One of our students, Charlotte, I think got about 30 out of 50 on her MVO, which is a great sign that is a direction you can commit more time to. And really, it's as simple as that to validate what is really your product vision, right? This sort of desired outcome you're promising in the manifested as the MVO statement, and to prove, hey, this is the direction we should go in, without committing to doing anything more than that. Because if you get the offer statement right, that is all that mattered. Sorry, all that matters. Really, this becomes your vision, your guiding vision, and your initial strategy. So what that first simple product may be to start delivering value and ultimately start moving towards a product people love and one that generates revenue for the business. And only once we find an MVO that resonates with our niche do we even think about committing time to building out a more concrete solution and really addressing question of feasibility. So we iterate on that outreach, we iterate on that MVO, and we iterate on the simply the type form, the MVO we have in the type form, until we find something that really starts resonating. Because if we cannot prove that we are offering something of value, then nothing else matters. So in this free training, we've just obviously scratched the surface on really this topic, which I strongly believe is a game changer to your product work. I'm going to send out the ideation framework. I'm going to send out the replay for this, some frameworks. So you have the tools there, but obviously we can't, unfortunately, pack 2 weeks of intense hands-on learning where we cover, the MVO in just a 30-minute session. As I said, tomorrow you're going to get all those tools, and if you're really serious about stepping up your product career, I suggest you really carve out time to put these ideas into action. You can run that whole process in 5 hours per week. It's the ideation training plus the MBA training to start actually validating maybe what your offer looks like. But I always ask myself, how many people will actually put this into action? Maybe a handful of people on the call. As I said, you have to be somebody that puts these things into action if you really want to level up your career. Now, usually I would pitch the Prod MBA and say, if you want to level up, come and join. But we have actually just sold out our January cohort, which is great. So instead, what I'm going to say is, if you want just some advice on how to put the MVO into practice, if you want even to have a quick call where we can come up with a clear strategy around what you want to achieve, maybe that's your own business, maybe that's something you want to test out in your current business as well, then feel free to book a free strategy call so we can come out with a really concrete plan of action there. And the link is on this slide, and I'm also going to be posting it on the chat below. Also, if you are interested in joining the March cohort, then go ahead as well, book a call, and just let me know when we start that call that's what you're interested in as well. So that's it. And what we're going to do now is open up for questions. So I'm just going to post this link on the chat. So yeah, you can see a little bead of sweat there, pretty warm. Dara's already left, that's no problem. Okay, excellent. Cool, do we have any questions on the MVO, on the ideation process as well? No, okay. Any questions at all? Here we go, from Ben. So feel free to keep posting these and I'll address them as we go. Great question. This is something that I hammer home with the Prod MBA training. How do you see, so Ben asked, how do you see something like the MVO being rolled out in a more established product organization? Great question. I think the second one is slightly different, so I'll come to that after. This is not just something for new businesses. MVP isn't for that, nor is the MVO. What tends to happen in many companies is that at some point the product started out delivering value because that's how people use it. If it hasn't, then it's going to die at some point. The problem in many organizations is that value proposition gets clouded as we add other product teams around it or other products, or bring in new people. We scale, so the founders and that thread of a strong product vision start to get a little bit clouded. So I strongly believe that the MVO is a very effective tool to bring into an existing organization to rediscover or uncover a core value proposition. Because ultimately, if we do not focus on a core value proposition, we're going to end up in that red ocean I talked about. Right? We get sort of not quite sure, really hot. Customer comes along, they're not quite sure what we offer them. They're not that loyal. We sort of look like all of the competition as well. So it is something that you can bring in to create a strong business case for saying, look, Here's the vision I suggest. Here's the strategy. Here's how I believe we can start moving towards it. Now, obviously, it's not like a startup where you just overnight you can change direction. The goal, though, is to start influencing the strategy and roadmap to focus more on delivering that unique value, right? So again, if your customers really, really value a lightning fast email application, and you're an email application, you start doubling down on that more and more and more. Obviously, with a lean product process, we can measure what's happening. So it's not going to happen overnight, but you should start moving towards that. And ultimately, it helps you tell that compelling narrative, which data doesn't always do, right? We always talk about being data-driven. That's not what convinces people. Actually, telling quite a compelling narrative does. And that helps by saying, we've got this customer, Ben. Ben works 16 hours a day. He spends about 3 hours a day on email. Now, all he wants to do is go home at 5 p.m. and enjoy his evening, have a balanced life. And he uses Superhuman because it's lightning fast, because it saves him those 2 hours in the evening to spend more time with his kids, as an example. So you're telling this story, starting to move the product in that direction through influencing your stakeholders in your roadmap, and sharpening your value proposition, and delivering on your value proposition. Second question, sorry. So how does this map to a feature incentive? The thinking is applicable. So a trap that many people find themselves in product is that, also just feel free to post any other questions. I'm curious. So we think of features in isolation and not features like it's going to help me do this very specific thing. We don't go a level deeper in that. Right? So people don't use features, they use the promise that is being made there. What is that promise? And that's your job to uncover that. So, for example, people don't just want to access video like course videos. They want the transformation. That is part of this transformation people are looking for with, leveling up their product career, for example. So it's about really shifting your mindset away from like, what technical questions of technicality, feasibility, towards what really do people want and how can we deliver that as quickly and effectively as possible. Hopefully that answers your question. Final question. No worries, Ben. What if you're struggling to access your customers to send MVO? I personally think that this is an excuse. I think only when you're in, let's say, a highly data sensitive environment, or let's say certain B2B environments, enterprise environments where you maybe don't access your customers directly, then clearly it's difficult. However, you can find people similar. Right? You want to find people similar that sit in the same psychographic. I have never seen a student not access their customers if they put the work in and if they have iterated 2 or 3 times. You can do LinkedIn, Facebook, everybody is there somewhere, right? So I really, really don't believe that is a blocker. But I mean, prove me wrong. I don't know, Kieran, if you have a specific use case in mind, because I'm sure there are a few. Okay, no worries, no worries. We can talk about that one over email actually, because that's quite an interesting. I'm sure there are, but I think the only ones that I've seen are these like very, very old school companies that have a lot of like privacy and company secrecy, that kind of thing. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I am interested in carrying that conversation. So what we're going to do now to finish off very quickly is I would like whoever's been part of our competition to post the link to their LinkedIn post on the chat. I'm also going to check my LinkedIn to just double check what has been going on. Pascal, if you win again, then we can work out a different prize. Okay, anyone participated? Feel free to post. Understand if not, because it is a little bit late in the day over there in Europe. No, okay, no, that's unlucky. Last time you did pretty well, actually. Last time it was like 7 likes, 3 comments, I thought. No, okay, so we don't have a winner. We only have 0 likes on that. That's fine, that's fine. I think we left it a little bit late in the day. Last time we did it much earlier. No problem. Well, look, we're going to wrap up there then. So thanks for joining. As I said, if anybody wants to put this into practice, then check out the emails over the weekend, book a call, and we can talk about, very quickly just how you might implement this in your company. Each context is always unique. And any other questions, feel free to just drop me an email, message me on LinkedIn, any of those platforms, and I would love to see I'd love to see some of you put this into practice. I'm more than happy to offer my time there as well. Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much for joining. Enjoy Friday evening over there. And as I said, let's stay in contact over email and LinkedIn. Thanks for joining.